After watching this video and trying out this DIY I'm about to show you, your hair will have no business with breakage, excessive shedding, dandruff, or dryness. Whenever I see or hear people complain about DIYs, making their own oil or hair growth spray, hair butter with natural herbs, and their hair starts drying and breaking out, I feel very bad about it. I'm not always comfortable with it, and my response is always is either you're making it the wrong way or you are using it the wrong way. Most of these natural herbs are so potent, and there is a way you're supposed to make and use it to get a positive result. If not, your hair will really dry and break. In this video, I'm going to be showing you the proper way to make and use your cloves and rosemary oil without experiencing hair dryness and hair breakage. So if you have been using them on your hair and your hair dry and break out a lot, you need to watch every part of this video because I explained the right way to make it and also explained the right way to use it. Don't forget to like this video and save it for later so you don't lose it, because you might need to come back to it later when you want to make yours. The first thing you will need is a clean and dried bowl. Clean and dried because you don't need water in this. And the first ingredient is cloves. You can use your cloves in powdered form. You can use the whole cloves, whichever one you find around you, that is what you should use. In this video, I'll be using the powdered cloves. And as you can see, I earlier measure out 1 teaspoon of cloves. And then I'm taking out half of it again because you don't need too much of cloves to make your cloves and rosemary oil. And I'm going to explain why you don't need too much of it, so keep on watching. So I measured out half teaspoon of powdered cloves, but if you are using whole cloves, you can use either 1 teaspoon or 1.5 for the quantity that I'm making. Next ingredient is rosemary, and I'll be using my homemade dried rosemary. I got this one fresh and then I washed and dried them myself. You can use either fresh rosemary, dried rosemary, or rosemary in powdered form for this recipe, depending on anyone you have. Anyone you have around, feel free to use it. But if you can get the fresh one, best for you. I always prefer to use fresh rosemary when I can get it because it is more potent. It gives me better result compared to the dried one. If you're using dried rosemary, measure out just 1 tablespoon of rosemary. And if you are using it in powdered form, 1 teaspoon is fine. Remember, I'm giving out this measurement for the quantity of oil I want to make. The 2 ingredients for this potent oil is ready, so just transfer them into the clean and the dried bowl. Remember, your bowl should be clean, should be well clean and dry because you don't need water in this oil. Next, I'm going to be adding any oil of my choice. You can use any oil that works well for you. I always say this in all of my videos. Use any oil that works well for both your hair and your scalp, because this oil I'm about to make is for both the length of the hair and the scalp. I added about 150 ml of olive oil, and then I'm going to stir everything very well because I used powdered cloves and I need to stir to mix everything together properly. If you noticed, I did not measure out the oil. I just poured from the olive oil container, and that is because I know the measurement of the container that I'm working with. I mean the measurement of the bowl I'm mixing everything inside. If you don't have a measuring cup or you don't know the measurement of the container you're working with, the best way to get the amount of oil to add to your ingredients, just pour the oil until it covers the top of the ingredients. Mix everything together properly and then pour the same amount you poured on the ingredient that covers the top, pour the same amount on it again. That is one hack I always use whenever I don't have my measuring cup or my measuring bowl around me. It works very well every time I use it. So after adding the amount of oil that I want, I'm going to mix everything together properly and then heat it up a little with the double boiler method. This method works very well if you don't have enough time to infuse your oil. That is, if you don't have enough time to just set it aside to infuse on its own without additional heat. And I also love this method so much because it really helps to infuse the herbs into the oil properly without even wasting too much time. But if you don't want to use this method, after adding your oil, cover up the container, whatsoever container that you use to mix everything together. Just cover it and leave it alone for about 2 weeks or more before you start using your oil. But if you don't have enough time to leave your oil to infuse properly, instead of leaving it to infuse just overnight and wasting your product, just do the double boiler method. It works very well and it is very fast. And in the process of doing the double boiler method, make sure your oil does not boil if you want to get the best out of it. Once the water starts boiling and you feel it is getting too hot for the oil, be sure to change the water and start the process all over again. I did that for about 30 to 45 minutes and then left the oil to cool down for a bit before I strain. The reason I said if you'll be leaving it to infuse overnight, you are wasting your product is because 12 or 24 hours is not enough time for the ingredients to infuse into the oil, except you are making a hair growth spray. That is, you are infusing them in water, then you can infuse for just 8 hours and above. But if you are making cloves and rosemary oil, you need to give them time to infuse if you are not doing the double boiler method. After straining, I'm going to be adding my essential oil. This is totally optional, but I'm not going to hide it from you because most times when I say I'm making cloves and rosemary oil and then I add essential oils, people will say, oh, this is not just cloves and rosemary oil. But the fact is, I'm just being sincere with you. There's no point to hide it because it is something that is working for me, and this is how I make it because they have been giving me good results. I can decide to just cut this part off without showing you, but I decide to be sincere with you. So if you have any essential oil that works well for you, feel free to add it at this point before you transfer into any container of your choice. As for me, I'll be using my lavender essential oil and tea tree essential oil. I always add essential oil to my oils, mostly if I'll be using the oil on my scalp. They works really well for my scalp and they help to keep my scalp healthy. So next is to transfer into any container of my choice. I'll be using this my dropper bottle. I have a little bit of my rosemary DIY oil left in the bottle, so I'm just going to transfer this one I just made to it. There's still a little bit of the clove particles in my oil, but I'm not bothered because the particles are not strong at all. They are not going to cause any harm to my hair, so I'll just leave them in. I just transferred some into the dropper bottle because that is the amount it can contain. And as for this one, I'm just going to leave it in this bowl until I'm ready to use it. I'm going to be using this for my hot oil treatment. So I'll just cover this and keep it aside until I'm ready to use it. I'll use this one first because it is not in an airtight container. And as for the one in the bottle, I'm going to keep that for my leave-in. I'll use that on my scalp, my edges, and the length of my hair. You can keep this for up to 3-4 months and it will not go bad. That is why you need to use an airtight container, and also make sure that water does not get into your oil in the process of making it, because if it comes in contact with water it will make it go bad earlier. Now let me explain why I said if you are using whole cloves use 1 teaspoon and if you are using powdered cloves use half teaspoon. And that is because the powdered cloves is more concentrated compared to the whole cloves. You know the amount of cloves you will blend before you are able to get 1 teaspoon. If you blend 1 teaspoon of cloves, you'll probably get about a half teaspoon of powdered cloves. That is if you blend the whole cloves. So for you to get about 1 teaspoon of cloves, you have to blend about a tablespoon of cloves to get 1 teaspoon of cloves powder. And to make the oil, you need to use less cloves because cloves is very potent. And if you use too much of it, it can make your hair dry. And when your hair is dry, it starts breaking. That is one mistake a lot of you make, and at the end you say cloves and rosemary is not working for your hair, they are breaking out your hair. It is because you are making it too concentrated. You are using too much of the ingredients, especially cloves. Another mistake a lot of people make again is using it every day on their hair and scalp. It is not supposed to be so. You are not supposed to be using these ingredients every day on your hair and your scalp. Use at most 3 times in a week. 3 times in a week is fine. If you are using it every day on your hair, you are already doing too much because the ingredients are really, really potent. You need to mind the way you use them. The third mistake is using it on dry hair. You are not supposed to use this oil on your dry hair. Before you use it, you hydrate properly. Hydrate your hair properly before you apply it on both your hair and your scalp. You need to hydrate before you use it. If not, you end up sealing dryness into your hair. I hope you find this video helpful. If you do, please share with someone and also leave a comment for me. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you have not yet subscribed, because I have more amazing hair growth DIY videos coming up and you will not want to miss them. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, bye.